Wow. Just wow. That's all you can say, really, about this movie. I should send a review there. Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be another movie review for you guys, and this movie I'm going to be reviewing, I am so happy I can finally review this movie, because this is a movie I want to see for a very long time. Ever since this movie started getting as much acclaim as it did, I really wanted to see it. And today, luckily, finally was leaked on the Thor movie. I was planning on seeing it in theaters, but I didn't. I'm not gonna see it in theaters now because it was leaked on the Thor movie, which I'm very happy that they did that. Shout out to Solar Movie for doing that. Don't know if you're watching. Don't know if they're watching this, but whatever. But that movie I'm going to be reviewing is Foxcatcher. Now, I want to see Foxcatcher for such a long time. Ever since it got all the acclaim at TIFF, I've wanted to see it since then. And I finally saw Foxcatcher, and overall, after seeing it, what did I think of Foxcatcher? Foxcatcher, for the most part, is a very, very good movie with some of the best performances of the entire year. And it is honestly a very, very creepy movie. And I kind of want to compare it to Raging Bull. I was going to do that, but I'm not going to do that because this is a very different kind of story. Basically, here's the story of Foxcatcher. Now, I want to talk about why this movie... Now, I'm going to talk about a lot of things about this movie. But first, let's get to the central plot of Foxcatcher, which really tells you nothing about the movie. Basically, the story of Foxcatcher. We focus on this guy, Mark Schultz. He is an Olympic gold medal winning wrestler. His brother, Dave, at the time, is much more successful. You know, he's the one that's getting all the credit. Mark is, you know, very, very successful. You know, he's definitely much more successful than Mark. Mark is not as successful, but he's just as well trained as Dave. He is just as well, you know, he is just as well experienced. Like, he and Dave are pretty much exactly the same kind of, you know, they both have the same strength and things like that. So Dave kind of really wants Mark to be more out there. He wants Mark to be featured more because he's tired of just being the one that's featured all the time. I mean, there's a scene where Mark goes to, you know, find some, you know, Mark goes up to someone and they ask him if he's his brother because his brother's more successful. So one day Mark gets a call from John DuPont, who is a very successful wrestling enthusiast. You know, he trains wrestlers and he also, you know, works in the Olympics and things like that. And you know, Mark obviously really wants to work with John. And so the rest of the movie is Mark working with John basically and sort of how things worked out, you know, the strange things that John and you know, a lot of people started to get very suspicious about John, and that's kind of the plot of Foxcatcher. Now, I think that is a very good plot. I definitely really enjoyed that plot, but the movie is a lot more than that, because this is a movie where it constantly gets you to infer things, and constantly gets you to foreshadow things, and that's really due in part to the amazing acting in this movie. And we have to talk about Steve Carell first. Just... oh my god, Steve Carell gives an amazing performance in this movie. I thought his performance in The Way Back was amazing. I thought that was his best performance. No, this is Steve Carell's best performance. Now, when I say, and even saying it's his best performance, that is an understatement. Not only is he creepy in this movie, he is downright disturbing and a downright, just eerie and disgusting. His whole character, the whole time... the second he came on the screen, I'm like, what is up with him? Like, there's clearly something up with John DuPont, and you can't tell what it is. The whole movie, you're just waiting for him to explode. You're waiting for him to just go off. And, you know, I was waiting for some sort of big outburst. I'm like, why isn't he screaming? Why is he so calm? When someone is so calm, there's clearly something wrong about him. You know, he's a very paranoid person. He acts like he's a very good, you know, he knows what he's doing, but he's very suspicious and everything, and everyone's very suspicious about him, and I thought his character was just very, very well done. The way Steve Carell portrayed him was amazing, and definitely Oscar-worthy. Steve Carell better get nominated for an Oscar because of this. This was an Oscar-worthy performance, definitely. He did an amazing job. I thought Steve Carell was just amazing in this movie, and not only was he amazing, it really was what the whole movie was focused on, was thinking about John DuPont and how he worked and things like that. Even things like how John DuPont did certain things, like how he greeted, you know, Mark and Mark and Dave's, family, how he greeted them, how he was to them, how he trained, how he talked to the wrestlers, things like that. He's so calm, and he's like a cannon. He's like basically just a cannon. He's ready to go off pretty much. And when he goes off, I don't want to spoil what happens, but it gets crazy, and it gets pretty messed up with him, definitely, but I think Steve Carell just portrayed that perfectly. Now, Channing Tatum in this movie, I have always been a fan of Channing Tatum, especially since 21 Jump Street. I think he's been making amazing films since then, and this is by far Channing Tatum's best performance. I loved his character in this movie. His character is very overconfident, and a lot of the scenes where he is winning all these medals, it is very well done with his character. And one of the things I loved about his character was how confident he was. He was very confident that John DuPont was a good guy. But you can clearly see that there's something going on between him and John DuPont. And Mark is just very confident that it's all, that John is just a legit guy and he's a good trainer and everything. And he knows what he's doing. And I thought his character was very well done because that. Channing Tatum also gave a very Oscar-worthy performance. But Mark Ruffalo in this movie, I really want to talk about him, was also amazing as Dave. He, of course, is Mark's protective brother. And when I say he is protective of him, he is protective of him. There's a scene where he's interviewed by this guy, talking about John DuPont, basically. He wants to interview all the wrestlers. He wants to interview all of them, basically to see how they feel about John DuPont. And there's a scene where Dave says, I want Mark to be paid regardless of if he's in, as long as I'm in the Olympics. And basically says, oh, so you want him to be paid even if he's not in the Olympics? And it really shows how overprotective Mark is. The whole movie, he's extremely suspicious about John. He's very leery about him working with him. At first, he really is happy that Mark's working with him, but as the movie goes on, you can clearly tell that Dave is getting more suspicious. He starts to invite John to more things. He starts to see John to more things. He's very, very kind to John. He's not rude or anything. You can clearly see that he is getting very suspicious of him, and I think Mark Ruffalo played that very, very well and definitely deserves a supporting actor nomination at the Oscars. He was amazing in this movie. Vanessa Redgrave as Jean DuPont as John's mother. I thought she was very good. Nothing amazing, though. Sienna Miller, though, as Dave's wife, is amazing in this movie, especially towards the end of this movie. Because just like Dave, she is very suspicious about John as well, definitely. And I think she portrayed her performance very well as well. Now, let me talk about some of the other things in this movie. The directing by Bennett Miller is absolutely fantastic because the whole movie he really gives you this very eerie tone, this very sudden, very very eerie tone, very creepy tone, and I think Bennett Miller portrayed that very, very well. Anytime if you just look at John, you just look at him, and obviously, I also forgot to say, Steve Carell transformed into John DuPont. You did not feel like you were watching Steve Carell portraying John DuPont. It really felt like he was John DuPont, and he portrayed that character perfectly. And I think Bennett Miller's directing was a huge part of that, definitely. He really portrayed that very, very well. The screenplay of this movie is very good. My only problem is there are a lot of scenes in this movie, and a lot of people have said this, and this is why this almost was one of my favorite movies of the year, but as this movie goes on, it starts to get a little bit too much. There are too many scenes that are just characters talking, and they're not exactly anything that has anything to do with the story, and some of them are kind of pointless, in my opinion. There are a lot of scenes in this movie that are like that, and I wasn't exactly a fan of that. But I thought overall the screenplay was very good, especially any of John DuPont's dialogue was very well done. I definitely really enjoyed it. I was invested enough. The score in this movie is one of the best scores of the entire year. The score is so creepy. The score is what makes this movie so creepy. It's a very slow score. It's a very eerie score. It's a very creepy score. And I think the score is perfectly portrayed. Cinematography also very good. When we were seeing Mark in the wrestling ring, it really felt like you were watching a real wrestling thing, and I thought that was very well done. Now, the editing in this movie, as I said, has some problems. Why are there so many montages in this movie? There are so many montages, and there really did not need to be. I really felt there were too many things there were way too many montages in this movie. Also, the scenes with Mark in the Olympics weren't exactly as thrilling as they should be. They weren't, amazing, in my opinion. The best scenes, in my opinion, were any scene where John DuPont was talking. That's what I was interested in. You're supposed to be interested in the Olympic part of it, but I really wasn't as interested in that as I wanted to be. And that's due in part to the editing. The editing to this movie. This movie is quite long. It doesn't really need to be as long as it is. I honestly felt this movie could have just been a solid 2 hours, and it would have been fine with that. I would have been fine if the movie was just a solid 2 hours. Without credits, it is, but I really felt like it should have just been, because there were a lot of scenes that ran way too long in this movie, and the movie went on for just a little bit too much, in my opinion. There was a little too much in this movie, and I would have wanted to see more. I would have wanted to see not as much in this movie, I should say. Now, let me talk about the other thing about this movie, is that this movie really... Now, I'm going to talk spoilers for this movie, because this is a movie where you have to talk spoilers. If you want to talk about Foxcatcher, if you talk about this movie, you have to talk about the spoilers, because the spoilers is what makes this movie so damn good. That's why this movie is so good. Now, as I said, while it did drag on, it kept me invested enough. I will say that. I was very, very invested into this movie. It didn't lose my interest. Even the scenes that dragged on. It's not my top 10 because of the scenes that dragged on, but it did not lose interest. I did not lose interest in this movie. I did not lose interest in the story. I was interested in the entire time, and that's because of the performances. And I really do agree with what many people have said, that the performances, if these 3 performances were not good, this movie would be a pile of shit. It really would. And that's actually my problem with the movie, is that the best part of the movie are the 3 performances. And they hold they're so good in the movie that you can't not like this movie, that you can't just not be interested in this movie, because they're so good. Now, of course, let's get to the major spoilers. If you guys have not seen Foxcatcher, stop watching this review. And if you guys do not know the story of John DePont, which, if you do know the story, you know what ends up happening. But if you didn't, like I did, then just stop watching. That's why it says major spoilers. Because when I say they're major spoilers for this movie, I mean they're major spoilers. Of course, John and Dave, you could tell something was going to happen between them. As I said, John is very, very... creepy, and it just seemed like he was a loose cannon. And then when he shot Dave, I didn't even know what to do. Like, my mouth was open. My mouth was wide open when that happened. Then when he shot him again, I'm like, please don't do it. And I love the whole time people are just like, don't do it, but he does it anyway, because he's so suspicious, and he's so paranoid. He's so paranoid about what could happen to him. He's so paranoid that someone is, intimidated by him. And he's so paranoid about it that he had to shoot him. And, there was that scene where he's like, do you trust me? Do you not trust me or something? And I was literally just like, okay, you're going way too far. And definitely that was the scene that proves that he is crazy. So then, of course, he goes to jail. And I thought that was very well done. I mean, it really was... some people could say that scene was a little fast-paced, but it really was very well done. I mean, John, the whole time, you could just tell someone was off about him, and then you finally saw in that scene, oh, yeah, he's pretty much just a crazy guy. He pretty much is crazy, and I think they portrayed that perfectly in that scene. And then when Mark kept working in the Olympics and then said he stopped, and now is following... John's footsteps, I honestly got a little worried, because I really hope that he does not turn out like John DePont. I really hope he doesn't. I know Mark Schultz is a real person, and he still is alive today. I don't know if he's like John DePont, but I really hope he doesn't, because there are parts in this movie that kind of makes you think he's going to turn into John DePont, because Mark doesn't freak out a lot, but when he does, he freaks out. So there are a lot of parts where I'm kind of wondering, is he going to turn into John DePont? And I really hope that does not happen to him, and I really hope that hasn't happened to him. And just the way they ended the movie was perfect. His wife's reaction, basically, Dave's wife's reaction was just amazing to watch. I thought that was very, very well done, in my opinion. I loved watching that, and the way the movie ended was great. And, of course, John died in prison and everything, and I was very, very happy by the way the movie ended. It seemed like a slow build, but I was very, very satisfied with the ending. It might honestly be one of my favorite endings of the year. It really, really might be one of my favorite endings of the year, because I loved it that much. But that's basically my review of Foxcatcher. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think of this movie. Please, please check out this movie. I know this movie is showing in a lot of theaters now. I know a lot of theaters have gotten this movie. If you guys have this movie in theaters, see it now. It is a movie that I definitely recommend. If you don't like slow-paced movies, I would not recommend it. This movie is very slow-paced, and some of the scenes, as I said, did kind of weigh the movie down a little bit, but the performances were so good that I was never bored. I never was really bored with this movie. There were kind of scenes where I'm just like, all right, pick it up a little bit. I'm kind of getting bored here. But I was into the movie enough that I really, really admired the performances. And these performances, you're going to hear about them. We are going to hear about them come Oscar time. We've already heard about them Golden Globes. So we're going to hear about them come Oscar time, definitely. Because Golden Globes pretty much tells you, okay, these are who are going to be popular in the Oscars. That just tells you that. But I will see you guys in my next video. And let me tell you something, guys. I have a few more reviews left, because my top 10 list is going up tomorrow, okay? A lot of people have put up theirs. I am putting up mine tomorrow, and I'm going to talk about why. First of all, guys, let me explain something. I honestly don't have a lot more movies that I really need to see for my best list. I have a few that I need to see for my worst list because I'm not happy with my top 10 list right now for my worst list, unfortunately. In fact, my next review I'm going to be doing is for a bad movie. But I need to watch at least 2 more movies for that might make my top 10 list, that are going to crack my top 10 list. That's why I watched this movie, because I thought it was going to crack my top 10 list. Plus, I wanted to see if Steve Carell's performance was really that good. But I need to watch 2 more movies that I think are going to crack my top 10 list. One I am seeing in theaters tomorrow that I'm really excited for. The other one I will probably watch tomorrow. I'm probably going to watch tomorrow or tonight as well. And I will review that for you guys. Now, I will review those 2 movies. And then when I'm done with those 2 movies, I'm done with movies this year. And then I will watch 2014 movies. This does not mean that I'm done reviewing 2014 movies. It means that those 10 movies are my top 10 list, are my official top 10 list. If I see something that wouldn't make my top 10 list, like Birdman or Whiplash, if I see that at some point, then yeah, maybe they wouldn't make my top 10 list. But when I do see those 2 movies, I will definitely review them, because they're definitely going to get Oscar nods. They're definitely going to get that. But that's basically their shoe. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for probably... I've already started watching a piece of shit movie. I already started watching it. I didn't even want to finish it, but I'm going to finish it because that's just how I do things. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay. And let me know what you guys think of this movie. Please see this movie. Okay. Bye.